Hello guys, this is Vysh from Vysh IAS and we are going to begin our chapter 10. Last time we had completed chapter 9, which was the biggest chapter, which was divided into 4 parts, and we did it in 4 videos, and we have seen in detail up to the timeline of 1939, that is till the outbreak of World War II, what was happening within India and how Indians were beginning to move towards a mass struggle and a definite need for independence from the Britishers. So now we will proceed from the 1940s. So as you see in the cover page now, these are the topics for today. August offer 1940, CRIPPS mission 1942, Quit India movement 1942. So these three I have put the year along with it because chronology is asked by UPSC multiple times related to this topic, and in the next part 2 also we will see a lot of things like cabinet mission, Wavell plan and all these things are asked together. UPSC does not ask in specific about each of these, but they will ask you relative comparison. So let's begin today's chapter and we will see these three important movements or offers. So like we discussed in the end of last chapter, World War II had outbroken because Germany attacks Poland, that you will learn in world history. Second World War begins on September 1st, 1939, and immediately September 3rd, Britain will declare war against Germany. And what they did was they declared India's support actually without the consent of the nationalist leaders within India. So Congress had different positions actually. They told they will support on 2 conditions. First is immediate formation of some genuinely responsible permanent government at center. So they wanted an immediate government, permanent government, and form a constituent assembly which will be obviously drafting the constitution of India after the war gets over to determine the political structure of free India. So this was Congress position and or 2 conditions which they did, but each leader had a different viewpoint also. We'll see. Mahatma Gandhi told he is ready to give unconditional support to the allies, that is Britain, France and Russia. Why? Because Gandhi always believed like we should not attack or we should not target our enemies when they are in trouble. So Britain was engaged or worried about the World War II, so we should not do anything or demand anything drastic at this point. But what about Nehru? Nehru told we will support the allies only after the conditions mentioned are agreed upon. That is what Nehru told you. First accept our conditions, then we will support. But Subhash Chandra Bose on the other hand, along with the socialists and communists, they told we should take advantage of the situation because we should never believe the Britain. Because even during World War I, this is what they did. They simply appeased the leaders with small reforms, but they never gave the actual independence or dominion status which was being demanded at that time. Now India wanted only independence and they wanted quickly. So Subhash Chandra Bose goes on a totally different route, which we will see in detail. The Congress Working Committee resolution, okay, at the Wardha session 1939. This is not the INC session, make a note, this is the separate session of Congress Working Committee. So in that session, they condemned fascist aggression, that is, they were not ready to support Britain immediately, but actually they were not ready to support anyone else also, because even though they hated Britain, they did not want to go and support Germany at that time because of the German fascist policies. War was told to be fought for democratic freedom. What about India's freedom then? So Britain was telling like Germany attacked Poland and Poland's sovereignty was hurt, and it is basically a war for a democratic freedom for those countries in Europe. So India is asking like, then what about our freedom? Britain was actually playing double standards. When it comes to war or their game, they are telling policies or values like democracy and freedom by not even giving freedom to India, over which they have been ruling over 200 years now. So it was double standard from them. Government should declare its war aim and declare how democracy would be applied to India. So these 3 things were the outcomes of Wardha session. They were clearly telling what they wanted. And last 9th chapter, we had seen the Congress had resigned after being ministers for 28 months. If you remember, 1937 provincial elections, many Congress leaders had won elections and become ministers. But when the World War was declared without consenting with the nationalist leaders, they all resigned. And we had also seen in these 28 months what all good things they have done. We have seen in detail in one full slide in the last chapter. If you have not seen it, please watch that video and then watch this. And who was the viceroy at that time? Lin Lithengo. Rejected all the terms mentioned by CWC. If you see in the last slide, Varda session, they are told like you should tell what are the terms of the war, when will the war will get over, what will be done after the war, will we be allowed to form a constituent assembly and draft our own constitution. Everything was demanded, but everything was rejected by Viceroy Lin Lithengo, who was there in the 1940s in India. They even tried to use the Muslim League minority princes against the INC. So they not only like rejected it but also used people against them because they wanted to weaken the body. Will not declare war aims, will decide after discussing to all community of free India. So just to escape from the questions or the demands, they told like a small body of INC cannot just tell demands like this. Every community should be involved, like the scheduled caste or the Muslims, all communities and even the princes from the princely states. Everyone should be involved, only then we'll come up with some conclusion. But what was the hidden agenda actually? They wanted to amend 1935 Act. The acts we will be doing in a separate chapter. 1935 Act was the latest act at this time if you see the timeline, because after this the next big act will be 1947 Independence Act. So they wanted to actually amend it and get the emergency powers on provinces. Use the allied troops stationed in India to regain the lost ground. So they were actually, because you know Hitler was at its peak with a lot of army men and power, so he was gaining everywhere. So to regain the lost ground, Britain wanted Indian troops also to join the war, gain sympathy from the world, showing that India was pro-Germany and pro-Japan. So they even tried painting India's mindset as they are not supporting Britain because they are pro-Germany. So they created false stories like this just to gain sympathy from the world and everyone should hate India or Indians. They branded Congress as a Hindu organization and get support of minorities. So like you remember, the communalization was at its peak after the 1930s, and it was mainly because of one strong reason, the divide and rule policy of British government. They are branding Congress as a Hindu organization, even though it was not, because there were a lot of Muslim leaders. There were a lot of Muslim leaders who supported Gandhi and his style of politics. Still, INC was branded like this so that Jinnah and other Muslim League leaders can be taken to the British government side. October 23, 1939, CWC meeting. Again, the Congress Working Committee, no support for the war. Congress ministers decided to resign. So this is what happened. They resigned on October 20, 1939. That is why we say 28 months rule from 1937 to 1939. What next? The masses were not ready for an immediate struggle. Also, there was lack of Hindu-Muslim unity. Continue civil disobedience, carry out political work, constructive work. So they were just continuing because they did not want to support British, and they were not ready for a mass struggle. And also Hindu-Muslim unity was not at all there at this time. Jinnah was having his own plans. So they were just continuing what they were doing. Meanwhile, Subhash Chandra Bose, he wanted mass struggle, but he did not get any support. He had to do everything himself. Muslim League passed resolution for Pakistan. Meanwhile, in their Muslim League session, okay, they also had sessions every year, like the INC sessions, grouping geographical areas. So that is what was going on in Muslim League's mind. And when all this was happening, when Indians were not supporting, the Britain came up with something called as the August Offer, which is one of the most important topic in this chapter. August Offer in 1940, when Lin Lithengo was the viceroy. So if you see, Hitler was gaining success. Belgium, Holland, France, everything was fallen under him. So he was like his plan was to rule over the entire world, not only Europe. So when he was proceeding with his allies or his Axis powers, the Japan or other forces, Britain did not know what to do. The only means was they need more men and more troops. So they had to do something to appease the Indians. So that is why August Offer came in. What was the offer? Dominion status as the objective for India. Expansion of Viceroy's Executive Council. If you remember, Executive Council for the first time in 1909, one person was allowed, one Indian was allowed. Then in 1919, 3 persons were allowed. And now it is being told like 1940, again it will be expanded. Set up Constituent Assembly after the war, where the constitution set up mainly by Indians. It's not telling like everybody will be Indians. It will be mainly by Indians based on their political, socio-economic conceptions. No future constitution to be adopted without the consent of minorities. So it's like minorities will have kind of veto power. They should be definitely involved or it will not come into force. Response. INC rejected this offer. Why? Because we obviously know dominion status was something like even during the time of World War I or first during the Nehru report in 1920s, the Indian nationalists were demanding, and now in 1940, after 20 years, they are coming up with offer of dominion status. So obviously, it's clearly understood like it is not for benefit of the Indians, it's just to appease them to get support for the war. Okay, so this is one statement given by Nehru. Dominion status concept itself is dead as a doornail, meaning it is of no use at all. We don't want it. The declaration has widened the gulf between nationalists and British rulers. So Gandhi told like this kind of statements, if you tell, the distance will only increase. We are not going to support you. Muslim League welcomed the veto assurance because Muslim League always wanted like they should be given priority. So the last statement in the offer, if you see, no future constitution to be adopted without the consent of Muslims or minorities. So they were happy with that veto part alone. But what they wanted was partition. Partition is the only solution. The overall evaluation of the offer, for the first time, explicit mention of Constituent Assembly and Dominion Status. So if you see in the offer, the terms Dominion Status is also mentioned and Constitutional Setup is also mentioned, Constitutional Assembly after the war. So it was the first time in all these years that Britain at least mentioned those terms in at least in any offer. So you should know this because UPSC can ask such question. When was Dominion Status first offered to the Indians? Okay. So this is about August offer. Viceroy's Executive Council was expanded with 8. So finally, even though Indians did not give any support, Viceroy's Executive Council was just expanded to see whether Indians would react to it. They wanted some support somehow by some appeasement. A National Defense Council was established with advisory functions. Okay, so they are just hoping that Indians would support for the war. So this is the entire August offer and it's one of the first offer. Whenever a chronology question comes, this will be the first one in 1940. Individual Satyagraha. This is also asked by UPSC multiple times, like which offer or what is it related to? When did India, Gandhiji ask others to go into individual Satyagraha? So you should remember like it was immediately after August offer. August offer rejected and also deadlock with Muslim League. So it did not do any good. Congress gave command to Gandhi to initiate mass struggle because that is what Congress Working Committee always do. If their terms and conditions are not met, if you remember Nehru's report or if you remember Gandhi's 11 point, when things are not met, they will give the leadership to Mahatma Gandhi and tell like, now please launch the next mass movement. That is how non-cooperation came, that is how civil disobedience movement came, and now we will see again Quit India movement will come in a while. Gandhi had new plans instead because he didn't want to directly go for Quit India movement. He just told like limited Satyagraha should be done by individuals in every locality. So he wanted individual to do like a heroic action to show the Britishers like Indians are not weak. Everyone are ready to do anything for the nation. The aim was to show the government that the silence of nationalists is not due to weakness, to express people's feelings that they were against the war and did not support any side, to give another opportunity to the government to agree upon Congress demands. Individual Satyagrahi demanded freedom of speech against war. So basically it is again telling the same thing. We are not supporting anybody in the war. Our only demand is independence. If not arrested, we initiate a march towards Delhi from their locality. This began to be called as the Delhi Chalo movement. So this is Delhi Chalo movement. So you should know Delhi Chalo movement, individual Satyagraha. Everything is followed by August offer in 1940. Now we will see some leader names. First one to do individual Satyagraha was Vinoba Bhave. Second, Jawaharlal Nehru. These two are actually asked, so that is why third also we are mentioning. Third is Brahmadatt. So you should know these names because UPSC have already asked the first and second names. So individual Satyagraha arrest happened. It happened for many people actually. We'll see 25,000 convicted for individual Satyagraha movement in different localities across India. So the first three names are Vinoba Bhave, Jawaharlal Nehru and Brahmadatt. Please remember these names in this particular order. Again, when they were released, they demanded free India. Meanwhile, Gandhi designated Nehru as his worthy successor. So, like there was actually a debate, or there was a wanting from people in different ways, like whether Nehru or whether Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who should be the Prime Minister. Even now the debate is going on, who should have been the first Prime Minister of free India. But it is mentioned here in this particular textbook like Gandhi had designated Nehru as his worthy successor and he wanted Nehru to take up the leadership. But there are different stories of it, different versions of it, like in provincial assemblies or whatever, it was Vallabhbhai Patel who always used to win the votes of people, and he had always been felt worthy by the people, but Gandhi always preferred Nehru. So it is two different versions, and obviously it was Jawaharlal Nehru who became the Prime Minister of Free India, first Prime Minister, and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was made to take the post like Deputy Prime Minister. The Deputy Prime Minister post does not exist today. It was there for 1 or 2 years or the initial few terms of the Free India, but now it is not there. So that is how the leader of Free India was selected. Next is the CRIPPS mission. So 1940, you saw like it has failed. British could not get the help or support of Indians. So after 2 years, when this individual Satyagraha, Delhi Chalo movement, everything was over, CRIPPS mission was sent. CRIPPS is actually the name of the person. You see the photo in the right side. It is Stafford Cripps, member of War Cabinet and leader of the House. He was sent to India with a mission. So that is why it is called CRIPPS mission 1942. The reason, Japan was advancing over Southeast Asia and reached till Rangoon. Where is Rangoon? Rangoon is in Myanmar, that is Burma of that time. So from there they can easily enter to Mizoram, Manipur or Assam and then cross India. Pressure from USA, USSR and China to seek cooperation. So the other allies of Britain, they were pressurizing Britain, like you cannot even force a colony which is under you to give support to you in the war. So this pressure also made the British to send someone senior. Indian nationalists had offered support if given freedom. So Indians were actually ready, because they told last time also, give us freedom and permission to create constituent assembly and we will support you. So seeing all this in mind, CRIPPS mission was sent. So what are the main proposals? Again, dominion status. Dominion status, free to decide its relation with Commonwealth, which was actually not at all needed by the Indians. Last time if you remember, it was mentioned like a doornail. Constituent assembly again would be convened after the war to frame a new constitution solely by Indians. So if you see, last time it was mainly by Indians and now it is solely by Indians. So every member of the assembly would be Indians. Members would be partly elected by proportional representation and partly by nomination by princely states. So it's a mixed kind of membership and it will be fully Indians. So this is the improvement they made from August offer. Any province willing not to join the union could have a separate union and constitution. So this is something which obviously the INC won't agree to. The new body and British power would negotiate a treaty for transfer of power. So the new Constituent Assembly, whichever is formed by the Indians and the British, would negotiate a treaty for the official transfer of power from Britain to India. But condition was the powers of Governor General would remain intact and defense would also remain with Britain. So if defense itself is with the British, then what is the point of getting independence? The whole international boundary and everything would be under the charge of British. So obviously this did not do any good. So we'll see how was the reaction. It obviously failed because of unacceptable terms. Right to secede from union was given for individual province, if you see the third point. So that was not at all acceptable by INC. They wanted a unified India with every state together. Power of Governor General and the defense, the last point, which also is not acceptable. Gandhi termed it as a post-dated check. This is also asked in prelims by UPSC board, which offer or which mission was called as post-dated check. Nehru told an autocratic setup would remain and we would just be camp followers of the viceroy. So because the Governor General power would be intact, it is like we are just again slaves and following the same person or the same regime. So not at all acceptable. This was INC stand. Now we'll see Muslim League stand. They did not like the idea of a single union, because it was told like single union will be made, constitution will be written and separate provinces can go, but they never mentioned Pakistan or the grouping of provinces. So because their only aim was Pakistan, Muslim League also was against it. This is also a potential question. In one of the mock tests it was mentioned like Jinnah did not support which of the following, and they are given like August offer, CRIPPS mission. So they should equally know INC stand, Muslim League stand, and also Communist or Subhash Chandra Bose stand. Everything is different. So UPSC can ask you the comparative things. CRIPPS power. This is also a negative remark which was told, like CRIPPS did not have any voice actually. Whatever proposals he came with, the 5 points which we saw, this was drafted and given to him and told like you do not have any voice or any strength to just modify it. You go and tell like either take it or leave it. CRIPPS personally did not have power to modify or change the proposal. So he also could not do much. He came and read out the proposals. Both INC and Muslim League rejected it. So this is CRIPPS mission 1942, which failed. Next big thing at the same time, 1942. After CRIPPS departure and Japanese closing by, Gandhi decided to launch the movement. We'll obviously see reasons, what are the strong reasons. So one thing is CRIPPS mission has failed. Okay, so why start a struggle now? Failure of CRIPPS mission and unchanged attitude of British government, which we have seen. Scorched earth policy of Britain in Bengal, Assam and Orissa. So scorched earth policy we have seen multiple times. Also in world history you will see it again. It is actually a method used by the certain army when they feel like they are going to be defeated and someone is going to enter into their territory from outside. What they'll do is they'll just destroy or evacuate the entire city. What they'll, like suppose in this case Japan were closing to Rangoon and they'll enter through the northeast. So what Britain will do is they will evacuate the entire village where they will enter and where Japan will enter, and they will even poison the wells, or they'll the factories or everything will be shut down. There will be nothing. When someone enters to that place, it will be like a deserted area. So that is called scorched earth policy. So Britain was doing such things because they understood like they cannot compete with the Japan's huge army, but that is actually bad for India, right? So that is one reason Gandhi told we have to do mass struggle and we have to stop British or Japan, whoever is trying to play with Indian land and Indian soil. Make ready the masses for possible Japanese invasion. So one point is about the Britain's policies, one point is about the Japanese invasion. Decreasing faith in British power, withdraw accounts. So all the missions, everything what British was doing was not at all beneficial for India. So that is why these are the main strong reasons. You can list out actually many reasons, but these are strong 4 reasons for the starting of Quit India movement. AICC, All India Congress Committee meeting held at Gowalia Tank, Bombay. Why this is important? Because this is where Quit India resolution was ratified and Gandhiji was officially named as the leader. Demand immediate end to British rule. You know the name itself is Quit India, so they wanted immediate end. Form a provisional government in India after British withdrew. Sanction a civil disobedience movement against British rule. So it was similar to the civil disobedience movement, but it was like immediate. That is why it is called Quit India. Quit India immediately. And the slogan by Gandhiji was Do or Die. And right side, these two are stamps actually released by India on different occasions. So if you see the first stamp, it is AICC Quit India resolution, about that one what we have discussed just now. Directions given to various sections of society. So we'll see what were the instructions given by senior leaders. To the government servants they told, this time do not quit, do not boycott, but stay within the system and support the Congress leaders. Last time it was like just quit and come out of it, but this time stay and support. Soldiers also stay but do not fire at Indians. Students, if confident, quit school and participate. Peasants, pay mutually agreed rent to anti-government zamindars. Like if the zamindars are loyal to British, don't pay anything. But if the zamindars are anti-government, anti-British government, then pay to agreed rent, don't pay anything high. Princely states, support your ruler only if he is anti-government. Again the same thing. The princely states, many of them were loyal to the British government. They were happy with what is happening. So such people, such rulers should be not supported. Only support if he is anti-British. So these were the instructions given to different sections of the society by Congress leaders. Now we'll see the spread of the movement. Gandhiji carefully created the tempo. Like you see, he gathered people, he became the leader, he gave instructions, and individual civil disobedience movement changed into a mass movement. Government didn't wait long, arrested all the seniors. If you see the newspaper cutting in the right bottom, Mahatma Gandhi, Maulana Azad and Nehru arrested. So they did not want to take a chance. If you remember, during civil disobedience movement also, the British had made a stand like we will not allow any mass struggle to happen again in India. So as part of that, they immediately arrested all senior leaders. But so what did the youth do? The youth engaged in actions across provinces, hoisting flag, blowing up railway lines, telegraph lines. Individual Satyagraha offered themselves to be arrested. So they were in full-fledged against the British across India in every geographical region. And also there were underground leadership, that is few important names I am going to tell which is important for prelims, to guide the youth and provide arms and ammunition. So there were secret kind of underground groups which will not come out in the open, and they were storing the arms and ammunition and all the funds required for the youth to participate. Usha Sharma, an important name, who started an underground radio in Bombay. Please remember the name. Parallel governments. Parallel governments were established at many places. It's difficult to remember the names, but I'll just show you the list of 2-3 important names. Balia Chitu Pandey. Tamluk Midnapur, there were bodies like Vidyut Bahinis. Satara, where they called the government as Prati Sarkar, a parallel government. Leaders were YB Chavan, Nana Patil, village libraries, Nyaya Mandals, Gandhi. These are all were activities done by them, by YB Chavan and Nana Patil at Satara. Okay, so try to remember these names, or at least when you see these names in question, you should be able to relate it that it is during Quit India movement. Or if you are writing an answer in mains for Quit India movement, you should know like there were underground activities as well as parallel governments in different places. So try to remember at least 1 or 2 names of leaders as well as the locations. Meanwhile, how did they get the funds? Many businessmen who were anti-British, they provided the funds and donations. And villagers, what they did, they gave shelter for whoever are running or trying to hide from British police or forces. They'll give shelter and will not reveal any information. So everybody were turning loyal to Mahatma Gandhi and his style of politics and his style of mass struggle. So that is Quit India movement. Now why this is important? Because if you see the year 1942, it is 75th year, now 2017. Okay, so that is why it is important, and that is why we kept 2-3 slides specific to Quit India movement. Question can come for even 150 or 250 words, they can ask Quit India movement. Participation, we'll see, it was actually a mass movement, so obviously every section will participate. Youth left schools and colleges as they were advised to and were on the forefront. Women leaders are Aruna Asaf Ali, and we saw Usha Mehta, Sucheta Kriplani. Workers went on strike and faced repression. Peasants were the heart of the movement. Even some zamindars took part. Government officials, especially low level of police and administration. The lower level supported, but you will see later like the higher level were again loyalists to British, that we will see. Muslims gave shelter to underground activities, and the very good interesting part is there were no communal clashes at all. Like if you remember, even before this there were communal problems, and after this also in 1946-47 time there will be lot of communal clashes, but 1942 under Mahatma Gandhi, Quit India movement did not have any communal clashes. Please remember this point. Communists felt the irresistible pull of the movement. So communists were also feeling the pull, they couldn't resist, they also had to enter. Princely states showed a low-key response. Government's repression. So what did the government do? They did not put any law or like Viceroy's rule or martial law, but they obviously came down heavily with their usual lathi charge or armed forces, tear gas, arrest. 10,000 people were killed. If you remember last time, 25,000 people were arrested for individual Satyagraha. Even before that civil disobedience movement, I think 90,000 people were injured. So see the amount of people who are participating in the movement. It is very huge. Heavy fines were there. Obviously the press and all would be banned. Military took over cities. Overall summary we'll see. The important storm centers are UP, Bihar, Midnapur, Maharashtra, Karnataka. So if we see, it is there in the north, west and south. Students, workers, peasants were the backbone of the movement. We have already seen the participation rate. Upper class and bureaucracy remained loyal to the government. If you see, the rich class, elite class or the higher civil servants, they all remained loyal to the government. It proved that it was no longer possible to rule India without the wishes of Indians. So British had now understood like all the Stauffer won't work, CRIPPS mission won't work, charging fines or lathi charges won't work. Nothing would work without, they cannot even rule or think of ruling India in future because they were already on the back foot because of World War II. So they had to involve Indians to come forward and take up the leadership or rule over India. So Quit India we have done in very much detail. One more point is that higher spontaneity than ever before. No retreat, individual heroism, parallel gun. This is again just a summary of what we saw in the previous slides. Independence, the only demand and the immediate demand. Okay, so Quit India Movement, I am sure you will be able to frame a very good answer with these kind of subsections and classifications. You can tell about the leaders, timeline, Gandhi style of politics, summary at the end you can do. So you will have a very good conclusion if you have gone through these slides properly. Meanwhile, in 1943, after this, Gandhiji had fasted. If you remember, the senior leaders were arrested during Quit India movement. So in jail, he will fast. One newspaper cutting is mentioning the same. Also, famine we'll discuss. Against the Britishers who came down heavily on Indians. Protests were organized at home and abroad. So even abroad, there were voices being raised. 3 members from Executive Council resigned. So if you remember, 8 out of 12 people were Indians after the Tell me in comments which mission. So 3 of them resigned. Gains, what were the gains of Gandhiji's fasting? Public morale raised to a new high. Anti-British feelings, patriotism at its peaks. Government's high-handedness was exposed. So Gandhi, whenever he fasts, everyone will be more serious about what is going on. So Gandhi's fast actually empowered the Quit India movement and can be called as a successful movement. Meanwhile, 1943, another bad thing or very sad thing was happening within India. That is because of Winston Churchill's atrocities. The famine of 1943. If you remember, we have discussed a lot of famines in the previous chapters. All the famines in India were at that time man-made, not a natural one. The Britishers would store grains. Even during World War I this had happened, and now in World War II it became even more graveful situation. Most affected areas were Bengal, that is eastern side of India, Diamond Harbour, Dhaka, Faridpur, Tripura, Noakhali, everything in the eastern side. 1.5 to 3 million people died. You can imagine more than who people are dying in Lathi Charge or nationalist struggle. People are dying just because they are not getting enough food. India was actually capable of generating that much food grains, but Indians themselves could not consume it because everything was taken as tax by the zamindars and then in turn given to the Britishers. So only the rich class or the Britishers had the entire food grains, which they actually did not use. They saved it for future. They stored it in godowns and then so that the price will shoot up and then they will again sell or export. So that much atrocities without even considering small children and animals dying around. They were only leading their policies with profit motive. Malnutrition, starvation, epidemics, if you see. Basically man-made. Feeding a vast army, diverted foodstuffs. Rice imports from Burma and Southeast Asia stopped. So if you remember, the eastern side, Japan was invading and also the imports from that direction also stopped. Because Burma, Southeast Asia, they were actually, even now, that side is called the rice bowl of the world. So rice production is happening there but it could not be imported. Gross mismanagement and deliberate profiteering, like we told. Deliberately it was stored and profit was the only motive. Rationing confined only to big cities. So like we told, the poor, the rural India, which is the real India, they did not get food grains and many people died. This is one point for prelims. March 23, 1943 was the day which was observed as Pakistan Day for the first time. Okay, why this is important? Because India's Independence Day also we have seen in the last chapter. When was it? January 26, 1930, when Jawaharlal Nehru hoisted the flag, Indian flag, at the bank of River Ravi with the slogan Inqilab Zindabad. So January 26, 1930 is for India, March 23, 1943 is for Pakistan. Remember these dates. UPSC does not go into dates, but still in case some twisted question has come, you have to know. That is why this fact is mentioned. So that is all in the part 1. Okay, we have done 3 important things: August offer, CRIPPS mission, the happenings during World War and World War II, and Quit India movement in detail. So let's see some MCQs. Modern history. This is the PDF. This is actually taken from our modern history PDF. Okay, we have 320 or 350 questions I think based on Spectrum and NCRT alone. So you can purchase it as purchase from us in the Facebook page, which I will be giving you the link. So we'll see the MCQs. Individual satyagrahas were taken up immediately after. I have told this multiple times, so now actually you will remember, but please see to it that it stays in your mind forever by solving these kind of MCQs. That is why MCQ solving is important. Who among the following did not take part in Quit India movement? A similar question was asked in UPSC for some other movement. So please, because now 75th year of independence, 75th year of Quit India movement, you need to know. So Muslim League, Hindu Mahasabha, Communist Party of India. So tell me in comments which one is right, whether all were part of it or whether someone did not participate. Which of the following did not talk about dominion status? So August offer, Nehru report, CRIPPS mission, Gandhi 7-point. Out of this, 2 were discussed in this video, 2 were discussed in the previous video. So tell me whether dominion status was part of all. No, it's obviously not part of all. One is wrong. You have to tell me which one is wrong. Okay, please tell me in comment section, because your understanding will improve only by solving MCQs. There are a lot more we have in our PDF. This I just picked up from that related to this topic, this particular video. We have tried to put 3 questions in every video, but tried to buy the entire 300 questions PDF. This is the Facebook page which I was talking about, facebook.com Vysh IAS. So now we'll soon come up with part 2 of chapter 10. Okay, till then, enjoy learning. Thank you and have a nice day.